never saw it, did they? The way you carried your pain like it was part of your skin. You moved through your days with a grace that made it all look easy, but only heaven knew the weight you were bearing. Only God knew how heavy your heart had become, how often you smiled to keep others from asking questions, how many times you tucked your hurt behind a laugh just so the world wouldn't have to see what you were really going through. And while everyone else missed it, while they missed you, there was one who didn't. There was one who saw it all. And I want you to know tonight, so does Kathryn Kuhlman. Her spirit still speaks to women like you. Women who are not weak because they've been broken, but strong because they refuse to let the breaking stop them. You see, pain has a way of being quiet. It doesn't always scream. It doesn't always bleed. Sometimes it just sits there in your chest, humming under your breath, walking beside you like a shadow. You wake up with it. You fall asleep with it. You hold your children with it. You go to work with it. And the world, so quick to judge what they can't understand, thinks you're just fine. They say you're strong, but they don't know what it cost you to become that way. They never saw the nights you spent curled up in prayer, whispering to a God you hoped was still listening. But heaven saw. Heaven always sees. While people were applauding others who looked the part, God was watching you live through what would have destroyed someone else. He saw the decisions you made with trembling hands. He saw the love you kept giving even when none of it returned. He saw how you stayed loyal when it would have been easier to run. How you stayed kind when bitterness would have felt better. How you stayed soft even after life gave you every reason to harden. And that, beloved, is what real strength looks like. We often think strength is loud, bold, heroic, and sometimes it is. But more often, strength is quiet. It's invisible. It's not the shout in the storm. It's the breath that refuses to leave your body while the waves crash over your head. You were strong because you didn't let it become your identity. You were strong because even in your bleeding, you still found ways to love, to serve, to speak life. They never saw your pain, but that doesn't mean it didn't shape you. It didn't make you smaller. It made you deeper. It made you wiser. It made you a shelter for others who are hurting. Sometimes the very thing that nearly broke you becomes the thing that makes you a sanctuary for someone else. You became a well of strength. Saw the kind of woman how the crushing seasons were never wasted. So many women live with this quiet ache inside them, wondering if anyone will ever truly understand what they've carried. And I'm here to tell you tonight, you're not alone. You became a warrior, not because you wanted to, but because you refused to quit. You didn't have to announce your hurt for it to be real. You didn't have to prove your struggle for it to be valid. And you don't have to shout your strength for it to be seen. God already sees. He always has. And there's a holy fire that lives inside the woman who endured the unseen. The one who didn't get the applause but still clapped for others. The one who wasn't invited to the table but built one anyway. The one who prayed in secret and cried in silence and worshipped while wounded. That woman, you are the one heaven honors. When the world tells you you're forgotten, when the silence around you gets too loud, remember this. The same God who saw Hagar in the wilderness sees you now. They never knew the weight of walking into a room where you felt small, dismissed, unimportant. And yet in the places where the world failed to see your worth, God was writing your name into something eternal. You were never overlooked by him, never forgotten, never lost in the crowd. Because God does not choose the way man chooses. He does not look at the surface, he looks at the heart. And your heart, my dear, has been precious to him all along. You thought you were just making it through. You thought you were simply surviving, taking one faithful step at a time unnoticed. But while the world clapped for others, while it spotlighted the loud, the visible, the polished, God was leaning in toward you. Because your strength wasn't born on a stage, it was born in the quiet places. It was forged in the fires no one else saw. That obedience in the shadows, that unseen sacrifice, that hidden cry of, Lord, I'm still here, that moved heaven. It's easy to feel invisible when you've spent years being the one who always cheers for others but never hears your own name called. When you've been the one cleaning up the mess while someone else gets the credit. When you've been the one praying behind the scenes while others run ahead. You ask yourself, does anyone even notice? But I want you to know, Kathryn sees you. She sees your strength because she once walked in your shoes. And God, the one who sees all, has never missed a moment of your faithfulness. You were chosen, not because of your platform, not because of your perfection, but because of your posture of humility, of surrender, of trust. You kept saying yes when you didn't know what the outcome would be. You kept showing up when your heart was worn thin. You stayed kind when life was cruel. And that obedience, that's what sets you apart. The world chooses based on visibility, status, image. But God chooses based on purpose. And he's always had a plan for yours. The delays weren't denials, they were divine training grounds. The seasons where you were passed over were never about punishment, they were about preparation. Because the kind of strength God cultivates in hidden seasons is not for shallow platforms, it's for legacy. Don't let the silence fool you into thinking you've been forgotten. Don't let their failure to see your value convince you that it doesn't exist. Heaven saw the way you held your tongue when you could have defended yourself. Heaven saw the way you forgave when bitterness would have felt better. Heaven saw the way you served with a broken heart. And those things, they matter more than you ever know. God chooses the ones who know how to listen in the dark. The ones who've walked through pain without making it their identity. The ones who carry oil in their laps because they've learned how to press olives into anointing. That's who you are. You didn't just endure, you grew. There's a power in being chosen by God that no man can revoke. It doesn't matter who rejected you. It doesn't matter who didn't call your name. When God calls you, when he appoints you, when he anoints you, it cannot be undone, and it doesn't look like what the world expects. It looks like peace in the fire, joy in the waiting, hope in the ache. So let them overlook you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them walk past you. Because one day, they'll see the strength that was building in you all along. One day, they'll realize that while they were applauding the noise, God was preparing a woman of depth, a woman of substance, a woman of fire. When your time comes, and it will, they never saw your pain, but heaven saw your strength. You kept going, didn't you? Even when it hurt, even when you had no idea how tomorrow would come together, even when the silence around you felt like a storm, and you thought, maybe if I just keep holding it all up, things will finally shift. You thought strength was your only option. Because if you let go, if you fell apart, who else would hold the pieces? Who else would make sure the children were okay? The house kept moving, the prayers kept rising. So you did it. You stood tall with trembling knees. You smiled when your heart was grieving, and somewhere along the way, you forgot that you were allowed to stop trying to be everything for everyone. You forgot that you were never meant to carry it all alone. The world taught you to equate strength with survival, but heaven defines strength by surrender. And Kathryn knew this, knew it deep in her bones. She would tell you now, if she was standing in front of you, that there's a kind of strength the world cannot understand, the strength to kneel when everyone else demands you to rise. The strength to cry out to God and say, I cannot do this without you. The strength to let go of control and rest in the one who holds every storm in his hands. That's not weakness. That's worship. You've been strong for so long that even the idea of not being strong feels terrifying. But hear me, God never asked you to perform strength. He asked you to rest in him. You are not failing just because you're tired. You are not broken just because you've come to the end of yourself. In fact, that's exactly where God meets you, at the end of your striving. That's where his grace begins, not in your perfection, not in your polished answers, but in the raw, aching places where you finally say, God, I don't have it all together, and I don't know how to keep going. And do you know what happens in that moment? Heaven leans in. The Spirit rushes to meet you. Peace doesn't always come with a trumpet blast. It often comes like a gentle wind, like a whisper in the chaos, like the warmth of arms you can't see but suddenly feel wrapping around your soul. You don't need to be the one holding everyone else up anymore. You just need to let God hold you. It's hard, I know, to loosen your grip, to stop managing every little thing, to trust that things won't fall apart if you stop holding them. But sometimes the miracle isn't in what you control. Sometimes the miracle is in what you release. Kathryn's life was full of moments where she had to step back and say, not my will, but yours, Lord. And it was in that surrender, not in her power, not in her personality, that the anointing poured out like oil. That same anointing is waiting for you, not on the other side of performance, but on the other side of surrender. God isn't impressed with how well you pretend to have it together. He's moved by the woman who shows up with her hands open and her soul trembling, saying, I still trust you. That's who he lifts. That's who he uses. That's who he carries when the weight gets too much. So if your knees are shaking, let them. If your hands are tired, let them fall. If your voice cracks when you pray, let it crack. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. You don't have to lead every step. You just have to follow. You don't have to carry it all. You just have to trust the one who can. This world will always demand your strength, but God, he just wants your heart. Let him have it, weary and weathered as it may be. Let him take the pieces you've been clutching. Let him hold what you can't hold anymore. You were never meant to be strong for everyone. You were meant to be surrendered to the one who is strong for you. And in that surrender, you'll find rest that the world can't give. You'll find peace that doesn't make sense. And you'll find that being held is far more powerful than holding it all together ever was.